resistance is futile.
Boldly going where no show has gone before. This is The Week in Geek with David D. Squared and Brian Held. Heard live on News Talk 99.5 WRNO and the iHeartRadio app. Here are your hosts, Brian Held and D. Squared.
Attention, citizens! This is The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D Squared, with
Brian Held.
Brian, I'm going to pretend I'm super excited and full of energy.
Oh, man, we are so wore out, Dave.
I know, man. So, all right. Well, this is the QuestCon extravaganza interview spectacular.
Yeah, so
adjective-filled show.
Right. Guys, we've been at QuestCon in Mobile, Alabama all weekend long, and Skungy is working at the House of Shock right now, so we couldn't get him in for a video game review. So we figured we would bring you a bunch of coverage from the convention. We got a lot of great interviews. Let's see, who did we have?
All right, so we open up with Mr. Jason Douglas Tobin from The Walking Dead. Then we have Sam Flegal, artist extraordinaire.
Right, we caught him up at Contraflow.
Right, and then we had John Anderson, Mr. Talking Meat Pickle. What is it? Meat something.
Something like that.
It's great. And then Matthew Atchley.
Yes.
And then we wrap up with Chad Coleman, Tyrese from The Walking Dead. It was a kick-ass show, and you're going to enjoy yourselves, patrons. So strap on, strap in. Let's do it. But before we do that, we want to thank QuestCon. We had a great time there. And, they treated us great. We got to MC and moderate a whole bunch of panels.
Yeah.
Rub elbows with con celebrities. It was nice.
I got my butt kicked at the Celebrity Pop Culture Trivia Challenge.
You didn't get your butt kicked, but it's all right.
Well, yeah, it was. We did go to tiebreaker questions, so I feel I represented pretty well.
You did okay, pal.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up about it. That's my job.
All right. Yes.
All right. So look, this next segment, we're gonna just jump straight into all this stuff, and we have a new sponsor that's going to be sponsoring this interview spectacular.
Absolutely. Our new sponsor is the St. Tammany Collectors Con.
Score.
That's going to be on November 11th out at the Clarion in Covington, Louisiana.
Year 2, right?
Year 2, yeah.
And I love one of their charities is Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots and a toy collection. Why has no one thought of this sooner?
No, that's a perfect idea, definitely. So they're going to be doing that. They've expanded, too. Last year, it was one kind of dealer's room with a little bit of stuff outside, and now it's 2 dealer's rooms. And a bunch of fan groups are out there. So Star Wars characters, G.I. Joe, Star Trek, all that good stuff.
It's going to be a good time. So I guess without much further ado, here comes our QuestCon interview spectacular bonanza superfluous talking by David D. Squared. All right, guys, stay tuned. We'll be going to take a quick commercial break and come straight back into these interviews. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Come out to the St. Tammany Collectors Con November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Toys, comic books, artists, games, and more. Meet costume characters from Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, and Doctor Who. All-day entertainment for only $3 at St. Tammany Collectors Con, November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Find out more information at facebook.com/St. Tammany Collectors Con. Join us.
You'll be glad you did.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as My Enemy's Tears, Goth Librarian, Cyberpunk, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com/shop and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love.
only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today.
Black Tie Tans, the premier mobile spray tanning professionals of New Orleans. Black Tie Tans will come to you and give you a natural glistening glow on the go. First-time customers get 20% off their first tan. Find them on Facebook at Black Tie Tans or email them at blacktitans@gmail.com to set your appointment. Going to a wedding? Going out to the club? Black Tie Tans will give you the look you need. Black Tie Tans. Tell your pale friends. All right, welcome back. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. This is your boy D Squared, and we are hanging out with Mr. Jason Douglas of The Walking Dead. How the hell are you, sir?
Man, I'm good. I'm just having a good time here in Mobile at this QuestCon convention and meeting a lot of fans and hanging out and talking with you. So
yeah, you know, I got to moderate your panel the other day, and that was cool, man. You're like, you and I got to kind of really talk about a lot of your past work, and you're a Houston boy.
Originally,
right?
yeah.
And but when you first kind of got into, you were an actor, and some friends of yours got you into the voice acting anime business. Tell me about that, man.
Well, I was basically a stage actor in Houston back in the early 90s, and at a certain point, a couple of good friends of mine, most notably Lou Temple, who's also well known for his work in the horror genre and on Walking Dead as Axel. Back then, he was just kicking around doing stage work in Houston, just like I was. And he had started doing some voices with this company called ADV Films, which, if you don't know, ADV was the kind of the progenitor of the company now known as Sentai Filmworks. And they were one of the first companies to start importing titles from Japan and sort of doing the North American distribution with the subtitles, and then eventually they were getting into dubbing.
Yeah, so you were doing the dubbing, right?
Right. So that's how I was brought in. They had a title called Kimaguri Orange Road, Summer's Beginning, and it was just kind of like relationship thing about a boy with psychic powers and these two girls that were friends of his, and it was kind of a sweet little love triangle, emotional growing up thing, and I got to play the lead in that. And that led into another show that was kind of formative at the time for me as an actor, as a voice actor, called Bubblegum Crisis 2040,
nice.
Which was a kind of a big sci-fi title at the time. And this was back in the day when if you were buying if you were getting anime, you were most likely either buying it directly from the company, or you were going to places like Blockbuster Video, and you were renting like the VHS tape.
So it was groundbreaking VHS back then,
right?
Though. I mean, that's which is pretty awesome.
Well, it's funny. I remember talking to Matt Greenfield, and he's one of the founders of ADV Films, and I remember him saying at one point, by next year, we're going to be clearing out all of our VHS inventory and going entirely to DVD. And I remember thinking, I don't know if that's such a good business move. A lot of people don't have DVD.
That's crazy talk.
That's crazy talk. What are you doing?
What's this Twitter, 140 characters? What can I do with that crap?
I don't know anything about this DVD thing. What's this? Is this going to be a big deal, or is it just going to be for like techno junkies or something? So yeah, a lot of that early stuff. It's funny because there's so much content now that everyone's got their favorite thing, and it came out like last week. And so there was a lot of great stuff that we did back then. I've already mentioned too, but there were titles like Gasaraki and Cutie Honey and Excel Saga and Rossifon.
These production companies would sell you like giant lots, right?
Well, early,
titles?
So that's the way it worked. I think early on that's the way it worked. You wouldn't, they wouldn't just go and license one title. It was like, you may want this title, but it comes in a lot with like 12 or so others, and there was so much content, and that's why ADV, I think, they were so successful early on, is because they just kind of had a corner on a lot of the best content, and they had a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember at one point when ADV went from being kind of a little sort of a mom and pop company that occupied a corner of an office building to being like taking up the whole space and cranking out. They're going from like one little studio to like 6 or 8 studios, working like 2 or 3 shifts. And I wouldn't just go in. I went from going in maybe once every couple weeks for 2 or 3 hours to going in like every week for like 12 to 14 hours to record content. So
it's a long day.
Yeah, I mean, if you can kind of see, like, if you were to look at my resume from like all the anime I've ever done with like when I did it, you would see a huge surge sometime like in the probably the early 2000s when that was really kind of happening, and that was when the dam broke. In terms of like there was a tipping point where anime went from being kind of just there were a few kids and an anime club, at the school, and like to like suddenly it just exploded.
Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit about Tobin and The Walking Dead. So now season 8 starts tonight, like in about 30 minutes. The show's going to start, so I got to haul ass out of the studio to go watch it. But now look, you and Carol hooked up a while back, and I was worried about your personal health because a lot of people didn't like you hooking up with Queen Carol, man.
I know. Melissa McBride is a fantastic actress, and she really endears herself not only to those of us who work for her, but to the fans. And it's because of just her really nuanced portrayal of that character. Carol is really, she's really become an icon on the show. And I think she's got her very loyal fans that really, really care about her because they know the show well and they remember where she came from and they understand all that she has kind of fought through, kind of her personal challenges in her life, if you will. And so they just want the very best for her. And,
well,
and to be fair,
you stole it from Daryl, man.
Well, I didn't. Let's just clarify. Carol and Daryl have never been a romantic item on the show. They may be in the future, and I have absolutely no problem with that. Let me just state that clearly. But not only have they never been an item romantically, Carol kissed Dope Tobin first. So let's just understand that happened because she, the character, wanted it to happen. There was nothing about Tobin that kind of took her away from anything else that was available to her. But I think it was an important moment for both characters. And I think part of the issue, frankly, with some of the fan rejection, and I say some because I've met a lot of fans who embraced it, actually, wholeheartedly. But for those who rejected it, I think part of the issue was just that Tobin, at that point, was maybe not as well developed. Let's just be frank about it. And so if you're a fan of the show and you've been watching it from the beginning, by the middle of season 6, you feel like you know Carol intimately, and you
like, who's this new guy?
Yeah, he was this new guy coming around, and so I get it. I have no pushback at all. I mean, I have.
So, now, I mean, like Tobin, your character is kind of almost like a weather vane, almost for the Alexandria. You can kind of see the mood of Alexandria and the temperament of its people almost through your character, where it's like first you're kind of just like, oh, we don't need these outsiders, we're safe here, and then you start seeing the ugliness of the world, and that was a great story arc, and it's not even close to being done yet.
Right.
So, I mean, how was that journey for you, even as an actor portraying that?
Well, it's really great because when I joined the show, I really had no concept of how far they might take this character. I knew from the comic books that he had kind of a brief story arc, and it was a decent one. He certainly wasn't a major character. He kind of starts off participating as all the other Alexandrians would in fighting off the Horde by basically just kind of circling up and protecting the ones who, basically you're protecting yourself. And if someone from your group gets separated, well, hell with them, and that really was where the Alexandrians were at. And it was once Rick's group comes in that they really start to open the eyes of the Alexandrians to the reality of the world that they're living in. And I think we saw that Tobin was one of the first Alexandrians to really embrace those ideas. And then we continued to see him grow. He was, side by side with Rick on a number of occasions, supporting the group. And we've continued to see him, even if he's not, hasn't had, a lot of dialogue, but at least we can infer. And I think that's frankly, by the time we got to the middle of season 6, when the Carol thing happened, I think the writers hoped that the audience would infer at that point, without having a lot of explicit scenes, infer that Tobin was kind of a trusted member of the wider group.
Right.
And but it's been fun. I thought when I started the show that I would probably last 4 to 6 episodes max. And
it's exceeded all your expectations and some.
Yeah, I think by the end of season 7, I had achieved, I think, up to like 17 maybe episodes, and then we're just about to start season 8. And,
so season 8 starts tonight in about 20-30 minutes, man.
Right.
So what can you kind of tell us about it? Obviously all the trailers are saying war.
Sure. Yeah. I think I can definitely kind of get behind what you think this season is about is probably mostly correct. I think we saw the group kind of started the beginnings of kind of that counter offensive last season.
That's a good word.
And that's gonna and I think you're gonna see that come to into full view. As we progress through season 8. We're still going to be, I think you're still going to see a lot of glimpses of the different communities, and I think the question is, how can we draw these groups together? Because you're going to have to come together in order to defeat Negan's forces, which are they're numerous and they're very well organized. So I think that's the challenge, is because you have these little groups that have just been segmented and just trying to survive. And so this season's going to be about unity, I think, in figuring out how well we all work together. Alexandrians, Hilltoppers, Kingdomers, and anyone else that cares to throw in. So
hopefully the seaside ladies or the Amazons will come in and help.
If you like action, I think if you really like action, there are some fans who have complained in the past about portions of seasons where it was more talking than doing. I think there's going to be a lot of gunfire and blades slinging and
But we're visiting with Mr. Jason Douglas, Tobin from The Walking Dead, also Beerus from Dragon Ball Super. You know what? We got to start wrapping the interview, but you know what? If people want to track you down and kind of get more information about what you're doing, what you're up to next, how can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on the internet. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Jason Douglas. So look me up at Mr. Jason Douglas, and that's probably a good place to start. There's also a Facebook page called Jason Douglas Fans, and I think I have an Instagram page, and if you want to see me in something else, look up a movie called Two Step, which is available on streaming, and it's an independent crime thriller that I'm really proud of, and it's still floating around out there. So.
Are you working on any personal projects right now that you got into work that you can talk about?
Well, there's a film I'm going to go to work on called Trial by Fire, and that's going to start shooting for me at the end of November, and then 2018, sky's the limit. There's quite a few things. There's a sci-fi project that I did that's going to come to fruition in 2018 called Dropa, so look that up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Blade Runner meets District 9 is what we're
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. All right, Mr. Jason Douglas has been joining us. When we come back, we're going to hear from Mr. Sam Flegal. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Come out to the St. Tammany Collectors Con November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Toys, comic books, artists, games, and more. Meet costume characters from Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, and Doctor Who. All-day entertainment for only $3 at St. Tammany Collectors Con November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Find out more information at facebook.com/St. Tammany Collectors Con. Join us.
You'll be glad you did.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as My Enemy's Tears, Goth Librarian, Cyberpunk, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com/shop and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love, only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today.
Black Tie Tans, the premier mobile spray tanning professionals of New Orleans. Black Tie Tans will come to you and give you a natural glistening glow on the go. First-time customers get 20% off their first tan. Find them on Facebook at Black Tie Tans or email them at blacktieTans@gmail.com to set your appointment. Going to a wedding? Going out to the club? Black Tie Tans will give you the look you need. Black Tie Tans. Tell your pale friends.
This is Brian Held with the Week in Geek radio show on News Talk 99.5 WRNO, and I'm joined with artist Sam Flegal. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Most definitely. Now, we were lucky enough. We ran into you last week at Contraflow. You were down here in the South, and how was the event for you?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was interesting as well. We almost had a hurricane come through,
right?
And so, like that affected some of the attendance, but we still had a great time. The parties, in particular, Saturday evening were great. The fans that were there certainly came out. We actually had pretty decent sales considering the size and scope of the show. And then we also got to go down to New Orleans 2 evenings and just had a blast on the French Quarter. So, yeah, all around and just an excellent weekend.
Fantastic. Now, I was looking on your page, seeing a little bit about you. It seems like most artists, you kind of started young, kind of doodling and stuff, and then make your way to where you are now. But one of the things that I found very interesting is you seem very business-minded. You seem like, hey, you have an idea, I can meet deadlines, right? And
yeah.
How do you approach the business side? Because that seems like the hardest thing for a lot of artists, right? They're great, they can express themselves, but the business side, they're bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of that comes from, so I got my degree in graphic design, not specifically in art. And I worked in marketing departments for almost 8 years before I realized I hated corporate America and wanted to be an illustrator. But as I look back on that time, a little more fruitfully, I actually learned a lot just from being in a sales. Like, I worked with vice presidents and I designed catalogs that went to Office Max and Staples and all that kind of stuff. And while it wasn't glamorous, I learned a whole lot. The other piece of that, and this is the advice that I tell so many artists, is art has to be your passion if this is the life you want, but make business your hobby. I know I spend a lot of time at the easel painting and drawing, so I mean, you're going to be there for hours, and a lot of that time you're listening to either an audiobook or a podcast, and take the time to listen to a book about business or about marketing or about sales, or listen to a business podcast, something that's on the cutting edge, maybe one that focuses on crowdfunding or something applicable. Because the truth is that whether you're selling shoes or art, a lot of the principles are the same. I mean, the rules and the laws of branding apply regardless of what it is you're attempting to sell to people. And then I think the other biggest piece of advice that so many artists, don't think about is let people know your art is for sale. I mean, when you post it online, include a link to your website that's like, hey, I've got prints now, or this original is available for this amount of money. And it really is surprising how many artists don't let people know that their art is available for sale. And really those two steps go a long way toward fueling the rest of it. And then for me, it's just, I do have an interest in the business side. I find social dynamics fascinating. I find humans fascinating. Like, what makes us tick? What makes us work? I enjoy things like the art of negotiation, and just all that stuff to me is just so fascinating. So to me, it pairs very nicely with my joy of making art, and then, taking that to people. And really, I mean, one of the coolest things about art is I can have all the intentions of the world for what I intend to say and my message and what I'm trying to communicate, but there's also the component of what the fan or the person sees in my art. And if they relate to that, And if we connect, that's a really exciting moment for me. And to some degree, like the way we show the things we like is by, buying them or supporting them in some way. And so it's really not all that different than, I guess New Orleans is a great example. If you see the busker and you like what the busker's doing, you've shared a moment, you drop $1, $5, $20, whatever you feel is appropriate to them. And that's that exchange again of like, I get what you do. I hear what you're saying. I enjoy it. Thank you. And to me, that's really exciting to be able to be on the other side of that as people interpret and enjoy my art.
No, that's fair. Now, speaking of business and promoting that art, you've run a number of successful Kickstarters, and you actually have one running right now. It's Fateful Signs, the illustrated Voluspa. Tell me about this project.
Yeah, sure. So Fateful Signs is the name of my Norse mythology series. I've done a number of paintings and drawings all around the Norse lore. I have such a passion and interest in those old stories, and it comes from an interest in, fantasy and games and Tolkien, and that when you dig into Tolkien, you find that he was so influenced by the Northern lore. And then you start digging into that, and it just comes to things like about culture and about my heritage, and it's just, I get really excited about it. And then for this one, the illustrated Voluspa, the Voluspa is from the Poetic Edda. So there's two main books when you talk about Norse mythology. There's the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda. The poetic one is the older of the two. It's about 1,000-year-old Viking poetry. And the Voluspa is the story of Odin seeking out the prophecy of Ragnarok, of the twilight of the gods, of the end of the world. In the first part, he seeks out a dead seer that he raises from the dead, and she tells him all about the past and the creation of the world and the first war of the gods, and walks through that. And then once Odin, starts to understand that she's knowledgeable, she reveals that she knows Odin's secrets as well. She knows where he hid his eye and how he obtained his magic. And so then Odin pays her in order to gain the prophecy, and then she foretells Odin's death and the end of the world, and very kind of metal stuff. And I've been doing an illustration of almost every single verse from the book. I release a few every week, and I'm constantly working on more. And all said and done, there'll be about 60 illustrations. There's 66 different verses in the book, so almost every verse will be illustrated, and I'm collecting that into a volume. And right now it's on Kickstarter, and we're doing great. We funded in less than 10 hours on the first day, which is killer. At the time we're talking, we're at just right around 300 backers, which is amazing. We've also, it's a sequel to the book I did last year, the illustrated Havamal, which is a collection of poetry all about how to lead a good life. And then it also includes, at least according to the Vikings, how to lead a good life. And then it has a section on Odin's story and how Odin obtained the runes as a part of the Havamal. But one thing that came about from crowdfunding last time that we're repeating again is that our audience asked that we include both the English translation and the original Old Norse language. So a lot of academic types really came out to support the book because we included the original language. And to my understanding, there's not a printed version of either of these books that includes both those languages, and then on top of which includes illustrations, and it's, the binding's amazing. My wife's a graphic designer who works in advertising for a prestigious firm in Nashville, and she's doing all the design for both the books, and they just look phenomenal.
No, that's great. And, of course, our very own Cyber Ernie is a huge fan of yours, so fans of our Facebook page have seen bits and pieces of your work over time as he shares that out. Now, let me ask you an important question. There's just a few more days to go on this Kickstarter. Will folks still be able to get access to this after the Kickstarter closes and for your previous work, your Kickstarters?
Yeah, so at fatefulsigns.com, my website, I have a store there, so people can still purchase the illustrated Havamal and prints, and a few other books as well are all on my website. And as soon as the Kickstarter ends, we will be making the Voluspa available for pre-order, which is a pretty easy process. The one advantage of supporting the Kickstarter is the shipping and the book itself is a little bit cheaper than it will be once it's on my website. And then on top of that, if you get it on the Kickstarter, it comes with some extra goodies like signing the book and some prints you can get and some special collector stuff depending on what direction you want to go.
Fair enough. So we're getting close to a commercial break. So let me ask, are you going to be at any other cons down here in the South, kind of Gulf South area anytime soon?
Gosh, not that I'm aware of, but I mean, con season's kind of wrapping up. I know the next Southern convention I'm going to be at is in January. I'm going to be the artist guest of honor for Chattacon in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
All right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it's been around. I think it's like the 48th or 50th or something one. Like they've been doing it for a long time.
Right. All right, cool. Of course, folks can find you at samflegal.com. Any other social media stuff out there?
You can follow me on Instagram at Samuel Flegal. That's a great place. I use my full name there. And then fatefulsigns.com is kind of my main site for my Norse mythology series. And that's where I actually post most of my stuff. At samflegal.com, it's primarily just my portfolio.
All right, fair enough. Well, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us tonight and tell us all about your fantastic work here. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Come out to the St. Tammany Collectors Con November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Toys, comic books, artists, games, and more. Meet costume characters from Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, and Doctor Who. All-day entertainment for only $3 at St. Tammany Collectors Con November 11th at the Clarion in Covington. Find out more information at facebook.com/St. Tammany Collectors Con. Join us.
You'll be glad you did.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as My Enemy's Tears, Goth Librarian, Cyberpunk, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com/shop and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love, only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today.
Black Tie Tans, the premier mobile spray tanning professionals of New Orleans. Black Tie Tans will come to you and give you a natural glistening glow on the go. First-time customers get 20% off their first tan. Find them on Facebook at Black Tie Tans or email them at blacktitans@gmail.com to set your appointment. Going to a wedding? Going out to the club? Black Tie Tans will give you the look you need. Black Tie Tans. Tell your pale friends.
This is Brian Held with the Week in Geek Radio Show in our continuing interview special coverage at QuestCon 2017. I'm here with D Squared.
That's me.
And we're talking to Matthew Atchley, celebrity artist extraordinaire. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm wonderful, man. So tell me exactly, what is a celebrity artist?
What I do is I do a lot of artwork for the celebrities, like from The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, Daredevil. God, the list could go on and on. But the celebrities ask me to do artwork, and then I feature them in their favorite scene that they're in. And I do it in pencil, and then I usually do a watercolor painted version of them, too. So I usually have two different versions whenever I do artwork for them.
So how did that start off? Did you like see like a celebrity sleeping somewhere and you just started drawing them going,
Exactly. I started drawing them like one of my French girls. Yeah. That's how it did. But honestly, I worked in TV and film for about 12 years, and I got really sick of putting all that effort and time into other people and building them up, and I decided to put a little bit of that effort into myself and see what happened. And what I did was I did a fan piece for Irony Singleton from The Walking Dead, and that's T-Dog for those of you that don't know. And it was during the first season when the show really hadn't hit that huge boom yet. So he's sitting there at a convention, nobody's at his table, Norman Reedus is to his left, Chandler Riggs is to his right, John Bernthal's there, and everybody else. And he picks it up and looks at it, and he loved it. And then he turned around to Norman and showed him, and then he turned around and showed Chandler. And from that, it just snowballed. You know, everybody just kept asking me here and there to start doing their artwork. And from that, it's just been amazing. It's been a miracle. I couldn't explain it.
Right time, right place, man, you know?
Exactly.
Now, you have a project, we were talking about it a little earlier, where you're working with Sean Astin, right? Can you dig into that for us?
I sure can, man. For about the last 3 months, me and Sean Astin, and for those of you that don't know Sean, he's Rudy, and he was also Mikey in the Goonies and Samwise from Lord of the Rings and everything. But we were doing political cartoons, and it's like the old school New Yorker magazine type stuff. And we're going to be trying to get syndicated through like magazines like the New Yorker and the big time magazines. So that's coming really soon. Our big announcement was just last week, so it's been one of the hardest secrets I've had to keep in my life. So I'm glad I can talk about it finally.
No, that's great, man. So,
Wouldn't you say some of that like a reality TV show too, or can we talk about that?
I can definitely say that there's some interest in me and three of my other friends, John Anderson, Josh TKO Turner, and Roy Healy, doing a reality TV show about doing convention type stuff. Every week would be in a different city, all the mishaps and trouble and stuff we can get into, but that's a definite possibility.
So something maybe along the lines of Con Man from Alan Tudyk, but more documentary focused?
Yeah, something like that. More mishaps and funny type stuff. Yeah, you put all of us together, there's going to be laughter. Yeah.
Yeah, like that time there was supposed to be an after party and there wasn't, and so we just kind of staggered around drinking.
Yeah, there you go.
Like
exactly. You just make it work. That's right.
Now, what mediums do you typically work in with your art and the products you produce?
It's mostly it's all done in pencil, and it's all done by me, and I do watercolor paint, and that's the only thing to it. That's it. I don't usually really ink or do anything at all digitally with computers or anything. I don't even know how to do that. Wish I did, but everything's done completely by hand.
So definitely old school stuff.
Absolutely, man, without a doubt.
Awesome. Well, so how do folks find out about this stuff? I mean, I'm sure, I see all your stuff at your table here, but you're on the net.
Absolutely. I'm everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. On Facebook, you look up The Art of Matthew Atchley, and you can find me there. And my website is www.artofmatthewatchley.com. And to spell Matthew Atchley, it's MATTHEWATCHLEY.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, so a couple of final, hard-hitting journalism type questions. So what's your favorite, Game of Thrones or Walking Dead?
Oh, man, Walking Dead, they're the ones that started me off because of the popularity with my artwork. I owe everything to my dead family. Today we're getting ready to do a big announcement and big unveiling for Chad Coleman, the guy that plays Tyrese on the show. So we're excited to do that for him here in a little bit, too.
All right, Marvel or DC?
Marvel. I've always loved DC, too, though, but if I had to pick between them, it'd definitely be Marvel.
And zombies or, no, what was it, pirates or ninjas? That's it.
Ninjas.
Okay.
Ninjas rock. I put in my application, but I never heard back from him, man.
That's awesome.
Ninja school.
Ninja school.
Fantastic. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you all so much for having me, man. It's been really great getting to know you guys.
We appreciate it.
All right, so our continuing QuestCon Mega Interview Spectacular will continue to roll on continually for the rest of the show. Right, Brian?
Yes, Dave.
Yes. It's going to roll. All right. What's next, Brian?
This is Brian and
D Squared.
And we are at QuestCon with Mr. John Anderson. How are you, sir?
Greetings, programs.
So I have to ask.
Anderson.
Oh boy, if I had a nickel for every one of those, man, I could have financed a Matrix movie for myself. Yeah.
So, of course, we've seen you before as a Ravager in Guardians of the Galaxy, but before we get into that, I have to ask, what is the Trick Talking Meat Tour?
Still my question.
Like now I've got nothing, man. Trick Talking Meat. It is my honor to my first love in life, Miss Carrie Fisher, who in an old Star Wars interview on the Today Show, they asked her, about working with George Lucas, and I think her response was something of he didn't treat us like actors, we weren't even human beings, we were just Trick Talking Meat. And I always thought that was hilarious. So when she passed away, I was heartbroken like the rest of the world, and in her honor, now I am the new Trick Talking Meat.
That's fantastic.
So what do you do? I mean, what like with the Trick Talking Meat? So it's a tour? Is it a tour? What is it?
Well, I don't know. People seem to like it. It's like, I think it's funny. I got stickers.
So it's okay. So it's like your catchphrase or something.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
kind of a
cool.
catchphrase. And I tell everyone, I'm not an actor. I'm just a piece of Trick Talking Meat.
That's fair. Well, how was your Trick Talking Meat experience on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Oh, that's where it all started, man. I was a lifetime comic book fanatic. So for me personally, just being involved in anything on a Marvel movie, it was just like mind-blowingly cool. It's anybody who ever told you growing up that comics and nonsense like that would get you nowhere in life, I'm the embodiment of being wrong. Yes, I made a career out of it, so it's awesome.
Well, and you've been in some other stuff, too. Sleepy Hollow, how was that?
Sleepy Hollow was a lot of fun. I just finished the 4th season on that one. It was a good time, freezing my butt off in Conyers, Georgia. As a snowpocalypse was coming while we were filming that episode. It was great.
I was kind of shocked that Fox let it run so long because, I mean, it's a good show, and normally they cancel good shows, but also, because they had, the whole demon stuff going on with that, it's usually they're always like, oh, that's too edgy and racy. We can't do it. Did y'all ever get any kind of blowback from people?
No. Everything was really cool. I think I guess it was during the 3rd season they started doing the Riders of the Apocalypse angle, where every season from there was going to be like death, famine, disease, whatever. And so it got really interesting to me after about the 3rd season started. I'm a fan of the show. I watched it before I was on it, and I thought it was really good. And so I'm enjoying it. Hopefully we'll see what happens if it makes it back into season 5. We'll see.
So, of course, you're out of the Georgia area, right? And there's a huge rivalry between New Orleans and Georgia, right, or Atlanta. And so you've got a lot of that Hollywood South production that's happening out there now. What's going on? What are you working on right now?
I wish I could tell you what I was working on right now, but we'll go with I'm staying busy. We'll say that.
All right.
I thought you were going to go with the Georgia-Alabama rivalry, man. I thought this was going to turn into a Roll Tide conversation.
He's not into sports ball, so but Georgia's still undefeated. Alabama's undefeated, or is Georgia still undefeated?
I have no idea. I did not miss. I saw the score last night. We killed the Vols again, but Georgia's going to be a tough one. Ohio. I'm not a football guy either. I'm a nerd, but when you live in Alabama, that's just one of those things. You've got to represent one or the other. You like Bama or Auburn?
I don't know. Burn in hell.
Yeah, or burn in hell. Right. Depending on, you got a 50-50 shot at the right answer most of the time. But I'm a Crimson Tide guy all the way. It's a home thing, man. You just got to support your team, man. Your home team.
Yeah, I'm way too much of a geek to follow any of the sports ball stuff. So that's Dave's job.
Well, I moved to Alabama 26 years ago in my senior year of high school, and the first thing anybody in that classroom, and they knew I came from Colorado before that. I was a military brat. And they asked me, they were like, Bama or Auburn. And I'm like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. And they said, well, it's football, man. I said, well, my family's UK, so we're Wildcats. We do basketball. And they said, well, that's fine. You can totally like, University of Kentucky, but you're here now, and you're going to pick one. And I'm thinking, hell, I don't know. Which one's Spider-Man play for, Give me the one that Batman would root for. Give me the red one. There's a little more to it than that, but Roll Tide.
Okay, fair enough.
So now the hard-hitting question I got to ask you is...
I just lost 100,000, half my fan base just because I answered Alabama. Oh, yeah, well, War Eagle, man.
They have multiple personality disorder. They're not sure what they're War Eagles. But the real question, Game of Thrones or Walking Dead? Pick now.
If I'm being honest, I don't watch either one of them.
Well, fair enough. All right, Marvel or DC?
Oh well, I think it's fairly obvious. It's a Marvel guy, Even as a kid, though, it was Marvel all the way. The best way you can break down Marvel versus DC. When I was a kid, it was like you were on one side of the fence or the other, man. Like you were either a Marvel, and you could like guys on the other team, for example, but because Batman's the exception to every rule, of course, but. You were on one side of the fence or the other, man. It was a Marvel guy or a DC guy. I've always been a Marvel guy since I was 4 years old. I met Spider-Man in a department store, and I've been blown away by him ever since. And And I got to be in Homecoming earlier last year, so that was kind of rad. That's
Really?
yeah. I got a little spot on Homecoming, and it got the Blu-ray, and I haven't been able to watch it yet. So.
All right, so we're visiting with Mr. John Anderson. Now, how can people track you down and cyber stalk you on the internet, social media, and all that?
Oh, I love cyber stalking. I wish I had more stalkers. I've got a friend here now stalking me. That's awesome. But John Anderson, the actor on Facebook, Twitter, harass me on the internet. I'm very social media active, so if you do send me a question or a weird photo or a meme or something, I will respond to you. It may be a day or two, but I will get back to you. I love it.
Awesome.
I don't have any fans. I've just got a lot of amigos everywhere.
That's the best way to have it. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Oh, man, I had a great time. You guys are rocking.
Awesome.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. This is your boy D Squared with Mr. Chad Coleman. Chad Coleman, how the hell are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm great, man. I'm great. Couldn't be better.
So if anybody's maybe been under a rock and they don't know who you are, you were Tyrese in The Walking Dead.
That's correct.
And you are Clyden in The Orville.
Yes.
And
Seth MacFarlane's new show, yeah.
well, you know, we got a little advanced screening from our friends over at Fox 8, and we got to see 3 of the episodes before they aired. And, you know, we really praise the show, and now that we've seen more episodes as the season's progressing, it really has taken a slot of the old Star Trek, where it really takes some of the old... Nichelle Nichols called it morality plays back when the show first aired, and she said that, you know, it's like they're tackling a lot of the topics of the day. Do you feel like the Orville is doing that as well?
Oh, sure. It's like continuing on in the tradition from where it began, you know, but with Seth putting his own twist on it,
Right.
which is it's great. It's an homage to the old, you know, back in the day, but it's also fresh and new because, you know, Seth's a mad genius, and it's incredible. A lot of fun.
So now, I guess, when, like right out the gate, I think it was the second or third episode, you and Bortus had a baby.
That's
you had
correct.
an egg.
He sat on the egg. And
it was such a great visual.
it's insane and great visual, special effects, makeup, and everything with Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero's company, KMB. The guys are great, doing great work. It's funny. It's just great to see you take a convention and put a twist on it and still deal with topical issues in his own unique way. So it was great.
You know, and that episode, I don't want to spoil too much, but it really twisted and weaved around the subject, and then kind of like left it with, you walked away thinking. You know, it wasn't like the issue is solved at the end of the episode. It's like, here, the ball's in your court. You know.
That's right, and I think that's great television when you're able to do that, because it becomes a conversation piece. You know, you don't walk away with any definitive answers. You walk away being able to look at it from all sides or inject your perspective on it, and I think that's part of what makes it a successful show.
Now, The Expanse has been renewed for another season, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're shooting season 3 right now, and that's another powerhouse. If people haven't tuned in, you really need to catch this show. It's so rich and dense and beautifully shot and amazing, huge cast, so gotta definitely check it out.
Now, we're visiting with Mr. Chad Coleman right now. Also, you might know him as Tyrese from The Walking Dead. Now, you had already been around doing a lot of theater and things like that. You went and did a show on Broadway. And you had a great experience afterwards that somebody came up and gave you a big kiss. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I was on Broadway, and the President of the United States came to see the show. It was called Joe Turner's Come and Gone by August Wilson. And, of course, we're all psyched. The President's there, the First Lady's there, Barack. And so after the show, unfortunately, the President couldn't come backstage because everyone would have to have stayed in the theater.
Wow, yeah, right.
Until he left. So the Secret Service took him out. So I'm backstage, and this woman comes up, and she kissed me in the mouth and says, "You're a great actor." And the president wanted to come back, and she's got tears in her eyes, and it was Meryl Streep, man.
Nice.
It was unbelievable. I was like, you're the president of actors, so this is an unbelievable. This is crazy, man. I can't beat this, you know.
That's great. So now the Walking Dead is behind you now. Is there anything you miss about not being on that set?
I just miss the cast and crew and, you know, the executive producers. It was just a great bunch of people, man, with a lot of passion and just fun and you know, was making great TV.
So once again, we're visiting with Mr. Chad Coleman. Now, where can people find you on the internet, social media, kind of, you know, to stalk you and see what you're up to next?
At Chad L. Coleman. That's it. At Chad L. Coleman. You can see what's going on. But don't stalk me, though.
Oh, well, you know. I use that in the nicest term possible.
I'm sure.
You know?
I'm sure.
But so do you have any personal projects you're working on? Something that, you know, kind of just a personal passion project of yours right now?
Yeah, nothing that I want to divulge at the moment.
You heard it here first. No,
That's
not really.
right.
No?
Still, not at the moment. Still cooking things up. So.
Now, you do some writing on your own as well?
No, mostly it's take other people's projects and try to, you know, produce it.
All right, well, thanks for visiting with us. We appreciate your time.
Awesome, man. Thank you, guys.
You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. Well, that's a wrap on our QuestCon interview spectacular extravaganza bonanza Bananarama show.
Yes, absolutely, Dave. We had such a fantastic time out there.
We did. So now if you missed any part of today's show or you just want to hear the favorite parts like when I talk, or Brian maybe, if that's your thing, don't forget, you know, follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Week in Geek. Check out our website at twigradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Twig Radio and the Instagram's The Week in Geek. Now, Brian, how can people listen to this lovely show?
Well, if you missed any part of tonight's show or you want to hear your favorite part again, you can always go to Spreaker.com or download Spreaker for your smartphone or tablet. You can also find us on iTunes, YouTube, the iHeartRadio app, and at WRNO.com.
All right, Brian. Well, that's a wrap. Let's go watch The Walking Dead, which is happening right now. And till next time, keep your nerd flag raised high.
GFL.
Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans, an iHeart radio station.